Happy Sunday evening, Dodger fans. Hope everyone had a nice weekend, and thank you for tuning in to this weekend's end episode of the Incline Dodgers podcast, where your Los Angeles Dodgers pulled off a great and amazing win against the Colorado Rockies in walk-off fashion thanks to Mookie Betts' first ever Dodgers walk-off home run. Shohei Ohtani also had a massive home run in the ninth inning to tie the game. Both those home runs came off the Rockies' new closer, Seth Halverson, who I believe up to that point had not given up an earned run at the major league level. But we want to thank you guys for tuning in to the Incline Dodgers podcast presented by TickPick, FanSided, and a little help from Underdog Fantasy. I'm joined by Jake Reiner. Jake, what are your thoughts? The Dodgers kind of took care of business, took 2 of 3 against the Colorado Rockies.
They did what they had to do. These weren't easy wins, especially today. And with the Dodgers able to scoreboard watch and see that the Padres won their game, and they were actually losing late in that game. But we all know that the White Sox, who now have the most losses in Major League Baseball history, they stink. So you always got a shot against them. So you kind of had to figure that they were going to come back, and they did. They did their job. But then Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts did their job. That is what you expect from your former MVPs and soon to be third-time MVP for Shohei Ohtani. That's what you expect from these guys, and they delivered. They carried this team to a win, not to mention Freddie Freeman, who had a tough game, grounded into double plays, and then he comes up big with an RBI in the late innings. Like, these are what your superstars do. So that was really cool to see, what we expected from these guys down the stretch in the biggest moments.
No doubt. Yeah, that ninth inning was massive. But we'll dive into all that in a little bit. I kind of want to get the tone start off with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who made his third start for the Dodgers since being activated off the IL and had no command really today, was only able to go through 3 innings. Took him 79 pitches to get just 9 outs, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. Cause for concern with Yamamoto, or just an off day?
I think it's just an off day. I mean, he was excellent the last time out, so I know he has it in him. I don't know what happened today. The Dodgers kind of needed him to take care of the Rockies, a 90+ loss team. It shouldn't be that difficult. And he put the Dodgers in an early 4-0 hole. So that was kind of concerning, but I don't think that it's anything to worry about in terms of him being sharp enough. He's still not fully stretched out or whatever. So maybe 1 or 2 more starts. I'm not sure how many more he'll get. Maybe at least 1. Maybe he can, rebound from that. Because honestly, we're going to need him in the playoffs because we really don't have that many options.
Yeah. I was getting a little heat online, but it seemed like for the majority of people in my mentions, they agreed with me. I didn't quite understand what the Dodgers have been doing with Yamamoto recently, because from what I remember, this guy, when he was pitching in Japan, we'd always get the extra rest, usually 6 days off, maybe sometimes pitch on that 7th day once a week and whatnot. And I feel like since he's come back off the IL, the Dodgers are only pitching him on 5 days rest. And I feel like, you could have probably saved him for the first game of the Padres series. He would have been a little bit more fresh, and he just didn't look right today, just maybe mechanical issues. But personally, I'm a little concerned with the Dodgers' usage of him right now, because do we forget he was on the IL for 3 months with the rotator cuff strain? So I would have preferred the Dodgers to be a little more conservative with Yamamoto and try to sneak in that extra rest in there. But I guess, they're the front office, so got to respect their wishes.
Right. I mean, I think that they've been managing him pretty decently. I mean, he hasn't gone past 4 innings, right, in any one of his starts since coming back. So
yeah,
they're limiting him. And you kind of thought that, can we get a little bit more out of Yamamoto today, knowing full well you're going to need a rested bullpen for the Padres. Now, The good news is that they have a day off tomorrow, so that helps. But I'm sure that Dave Roberts didn't want to go to his bullpen, and it was evident that he didn't want to go to his bullpen, or meaning his high leverage guys, because he let Ben Casparius pitch 3 innings. And now Ben did a great job and pitched 3 terrific innings. But that was just an indication to me that Dave's not going to any of his top guys except for Treinen in the 9th.
Casparius was huge today. We haven't seen much of him, obviously, but
Yep.
the 3 innings that he was able to provide out of the pen, 5 strikeouts, just the 1 run through close to 60 pitches. So he was efficient overall. And he did get into a bit of trouble, I believe, in one of the innings. He had the bases loaded with less than 2 outs, and he was able to strike his way out of it. So even
it was in the 6th.
Even in a tight jam like that, he had command of his pitches, trusted his stuff, and he got the job done. He was a big reason why the Dodgers were able to stay in this game and win today. So he earns a partial game ball, in my opinion. He was nice.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that 6th inning was huge. It was a turning point because, the Dodgers, they were already down 4-1 at that point when Casparius came into the game. And then he kind of immediately, after getting Nolan Jones to strike out, he walked Jake Cave, and then Hunter Goodman hit a double, and Jake Cave scored. And you're thinking, oh God, this is where the game gets away from us. They're putting in a guy that they don't normally put in, that they wouldn't necessarily call a high leverage guy because he hasn't really pitched that much. This could really get ugly. And then, you have Charlie Blackmon walks, Ezekiel Tovar singles. Now you got the bases loaded with 1 out, and Casparius digs deep, strikes out Ryan McMahon, and then he strikes out Michael Toglia, and then that's it, or Tolia, or whatever, however you pronounce it. He struck out, and that was that. And then he pitched 2 more scoreless innings. Just absolute massive job by him. And that's kind of what you expect when you call these guys up. Not that they're going to do this every time, but that they're going to contribute, and they're there for a reason. They've earned that spot to be in the Major League bullpen.
Well, once again, thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like button if you haven't yet. It goes a long way and helps us climb the ladder of the live streams and gets more viewers in here. And drop your thoughts on this Dodgers win today. We're going to dive deeper into the meaning and the magnitude of this game, but just kind of recapping what happened today. And first Dodger that got on the board was Teoscar Hernandez. Now he's up to 31 home runs, 93 RBIs, 829 OPS. A little bit of flack that I get sometimes when I talk about this guy, but every time I mention him, it's like 1,000-to-1 ratio. Like everyone's all in, like they got to re-sign this guy in the offseason. For me, if I was in the front office, he's the first guy I call and I get a deal done. Teoscar has just blown my mind, and he has been an awesome X factor and role player for the Dodgers. He's not the superstar, but he's like the Derek Fisher or the Robert Ory that when you need the big shot, he's there.
It's been an incredible season for him, and a bounce back season. And when we lost JD Martinez, you thought, wow, that was kind of a really great comeback season for him to, knock in 100 runs and hit all those home runs for us. You thought how we were going to replace that.
Yeah.
And then you kind of even got better because he's at least can play the outfield. He's not the best outfielder, but at least you can throw him out there and it's not like a logjam at DH. So he's been incredible. Got the scoring early for the Dodgers. But here's the thing, Kevin. I watch a game like this and it's very exciting the way that they came back and won it. Mookie's first walk-off homer as a Dodger, very exciting. But my concern is that this is what they're going to have to do in the playoffs to win games, because the starting pitching we don't have confidence in it fully. And this could happen with a Yamamoto really struggling out there, and we get into a 5-1 hole, and the Dodgers basically have to slug their way back into this game. If you look at the box score, they were 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position today, and they left 8 men on base. So that's kind of where you get into a little bit of trouble with this team. It's one of my biggest concerns. What do you make of this as sort of like a microcosm for what could happen in the playoffs?
I definitely see your point. The starting pitching where it is seems like a lot of these guys are vulnerable to coughing up a couple runs to get the Dodgers behind. And so this team that we're seeing here, this nucleus, they're gonna have to have smart at bats and just fight their way back and not get discouraged with early deficits, kind of like we saw the last couple years, where it felt like if they got behind early in the postseason, they just folded. And so hopefully the Dodgers just continue to play their game. And for the most part, when they're down, they're not out, and they've been able to come back. And Teoscar Hernandez exactly fits that mold. He's not a quitter at all. It doesn't matter what the score is. He swings and misses a lot. Sometimes that slider is 10 feet out of the zone and he looks terrible. But this guy does have the knack. And I was going to say he does definitely replace JD Martinez. But in a sense, on the field, he also kind of replaces Justin Turner for the bat that we used to have. Teoscar is kind of that guy now, and a big right-handed bat. And he's had a number of big hits for the Dodgers throughout the season. And so he's a guy I'm really excited to see play for us in October, because I'm expecting him to come through and have some big moments.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. It's just going to have to be home runs. I mean, that is really what we're built towards. So I just hope that it happens. That's all.
So Kiki Hernandez, I feel like he's a very divisive Dodger, not from a personality sense, but from a skill set wise. It's like you either love him or you hate him. And then sometimes you find yourself in the middle and you're like, you don't know where you stand on Kike. But without Kike's 2-run home run today, I don't think the Dodgers win this game. When he hit that, I believe, seventh inning home run, seventh inning home run, it put the Dodgers in a 5-3 deficit. So they were officially back in the game. And it was almost like a blessing in disguise with Max Muncy getting scratched. I mean, Muncy very well could have done the same damage himself, but Kike was the replacement for Muncy today, who was a last-second scratch, had the big 2-run home run playing third base, and then eventually Freddie Freeman was able to drive in Shohei Ohtani, who got on base. Right. Of course, we're going to talk Shohei Ohtani in depth in a second, but I just wanted to highlight Kiki Hernandez's 11th home run on the season was a big one off the reliever Hill for the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, my feelings towards Kiki Hernandez is this, a lot of people find him funny or cute, the way his personality, like, I don't know. It's okay. I don't really care. What I care about is him showing up in these very clutch moments, which he does throughout his career. So that's kind of why you have him around, because he does have magic. I don't know what it is, but he has some certain kind of magic to where at any given moment, he can come up with the biggest hit of the game. And I think you're right, because Casparius was able to hold that deficit where it was at 4 runs. That's a manageable deficit at that time in the 6th, 7th inning. Like, you can come back from that, especially this team against this horrific Rockies bullpen. So you have Kike Hernandez, who just basically brings this team back into the game. It's not going to get all the headlines, because the headline is Shohei and Mookie go back-to-back to win the game. But that is a huge moment, and that's kind of why he's still around. Not to mention the fact that he can play all over the diamond.
Yeah, and so we're going to find ourselves in an interesting situation, and I'm expecting to take a lot of heat for this take, but in the postseason, call me crazy, I would start Kike Hernandez at second base.
Over Lux.
Over Lux. So
first I want to make your argument.
Okay. Gavin Lux is ice cold once again. He's hitting 118 over his last 15 games, no home runs, 3 RBIs. The best part of Lux's game recently is his tendency to kind of work the count and get on base. He's actually drawn a number of walks, which I respect. But overall, offensively, he's added no value anymore. Once again, he's cooled off. The Lux sanity run seems to have ended. And defensively, he's really regressed in the last month as well. He's no longer even a plus defender. Last I checked, he had like a -4 defensive run saved. He has like a -5 Baseball Savant StatCast page defensively. So he's a below average defender. And we talk about Kike with the ability to show up when it's the clutch calls for it. And Kike seems to be that guy. He's not a lock to get on base and get a ton of hits, but it does feel like if you have Kike at the bottom of your lineup and you need that big hit, I'm willing to take that chance at this point.
Yeah, I was looking up the stats for Kiki Hernandez, the splits specifically, because he's mainly used against left-handed pitching. And today, because of the late scratch to Muncy, he was facing a right-handed pitcher, and that's who he hit a home run off of. And I was expecting to see kind of a big gap, but it's really kind of similar. Versus lefties, he's hitting 227 this year. Versus righties, he's hitting 213. So it's really not that much of a difference to where you say you got to start Lux over Kike Hernandez against a right-handed starter. And I'm kind of with you on the postseason clutchness. It is something that I might consider. It's not the fact that it is a huge upgrade over Lux, but it's the idea that in any big moment, at any one at bat, at any part of the game, Kike Hernandez could strike gold. And because Lux isn't, tearing the cover off the ball, I'm with you with that argument. I could see it both ways. I would be fine with either, but I see where you're coming from with Kike Hernandez being the new quote unquote starting second baseman.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the Dodgers roll with that. I would say there's a slim possibility it does happen. It was 5 years ago, but he did homer off Steven Strasburg in a Game 5 elimination game. He went crazy in 2020, had that big home run off AJ Minter, and then in 2022 when he was on the Red Sox, he literally carried that team to the ALCS. And so if Kike gets the opportunity, no doubt in my mind, he'll have another big hit. He was one of the few guys that showed up for the Dodgers last postseason, and he was basically a DFA candidate at that point, and the Dodgers were able to work something out because the Red Sox were done with him. So we'll see. And I think the Dodgers are also flirting with the idea of starting Mookie Betts at second base against left-handed starters, because I'll say this, I'm not really sold on Chris Taylor anymore. I don't know if I would start Chris Taylor, period. But Andy Pages, if you put him in right field, he's done well recently. Let me pull up his stats, but I know he just went deep just the other day. And the guy has pop. He's got a 421 average over his last seven games, 8 for 19 with one home run, a 450 on base, 282 over his last 15. So actually, you look at those trends, Andy Pages is swinging a pretty good stick right now. Just don't start him out in center field.
Yeah, I see that. I can see that, them doing that. And, Mookie Betts is no slouch at second base. But my big issue with that is you're obviously prioritizing offense over defense. And you either move Teoscar over to right field or you put Pages out there. But having those two at the corners with potentially Tommy Edman in center field, I don't know if I love that outfield defense. So that's where I kind of take a pause there. I would much rather keep Mookie Betts in right field and then have Kike Hernandez start at second base or Lux. Like, I don't think moving Mookie Betts to second base is going to really help you with anything.
Well, here are the hard-hitting stats. In center field, Pages is a disaster. He's a minus 8 DRS. So he's literally a circus out there, as we all know. But in right field, 212 innings under his belt, he's a +5 defensive run saved right fielder.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, it must be something about the way the ball gets hit off the bat in the angle that just throws him off, and maybe he just can't cover the range. But right field, he's been pretty elite, and I know he has an arm, so
yeah, he's got a good arm. All right, so that actually, I didn't know that. So I would consider that too. You certainly, I mean, here's the thing: what we've been talking about is that the offense is going to carry this team. So you got to see where you can maximize the amount of good bats in this lineup and make it as strong as possible. Having Chris Taylor or Gavin Lux in there, that could, they're not hitting well enough to warrant them being in the lineup. So with a guy like Pages, who has been hitting the ball well and does have pop, it does make sense to start him out there somehow. But again, I don't know if I want to move Mookie Betts to second and keep him out of right field.
For sure, yeah. There's arguments to go either way. Jake, how'd your football stuff go today? Hit on anything?
No, I didn't, but the Rams sure did.
The Rams did, and if you played Matthew Stafford on Underdog Fantasy like I did, do the higher on the passing yards thrown, you would have cashed in. Mookie Betts helped as well. I'm part of Underdog, and they're very awesome. They pay you out right away too. And Underdog is super easy to play. It's even easier to get started. Go to their easy to use mobile app or underdogfantasy.com. Sign up now with promo code INCLINE, and Underdog will give you a mystery special pick to use on your first pick'em entry, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code INCLINE to claim your new customer special of a mystery player pick and your deposit offer. But you must be 18 or older, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, 19 plus Alabama and Nebraska, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void this in Colorado. And if you're concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpagambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPEline at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. So let's talk about the
Did you
ninth
get all
inning.
that?
I got all that. I'm legally obligated to say that when I mentioned Underdog Fantasy. So let's talk about the ninth inning, the inning that really mattered. And obviously, Shohei Ohtani, I believe he was the first guy up to, hits a home run, ties it up 5-5. This was the loudest I had screamed all season. When Shohei Ohtani hit that game-tying home run, this was like the first time I literally yelled, "Let's fucking go." I was so fired up. The moment was massive, and Ohtani came through once again. More on his season, but let's just stop there. Shohei Ohtani, big home run, tied it up.
Exactly. That's why you have him on this team. That's why you wanted to pay him $700 million so that he can do shit like this. And he's been doing this all season. And the cool part to me is watching how fired up he gets, rounding second base, screaming, "Let's go" in English. It's just so cool to see him living in an environment where games matter and moments matter. And to be playing meaningful baseball on a team this late in the season, gearing up for his first postseason experience, this is awesome. I mean, the way he broke the record the other day, the way he carried this team back and tied the game with one swing, you can't say enough about the guy. I mean, he's just an unbelievable player. He seems to always come through when you need him the most. And I'm as excited as anyone to see what he does in October. I hope he lives up to it.
Smash that like button if you haven't yet. And if you're not subscribed to the Incline Dodgers, hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate you guys. We'll get to some questions if you guys have some good ones for us. But just these stats that Shohei Ohtani has now compiled in this season. Best offensive season ever for Shohei Ohtani. He's up to 53 home runs, 123 RBIs, 55 stolen bases. He's batting over 300 at 301, 383 on base, and 1,023 OPS. And oh yeah, he's the Major League Baseball National League Player of the Week when he went 16 for 32 this week with 6 home runs, 17 RBIs, and 7 stolen bases. Guy is a monster, and I'm pretty comfortable to say we're watching the best player of our lifetimes.
Yeah, he's incredible. He's just incredible. And the fact that Mookie Betts could come up right after him and basically not basically, he won the game. I mean, that was, one back-to-back. You had Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman, and you didn't even need Freddie Freeman. I mean, that's how good this team can be. And watching those two all season long, you're sort of disappointed in the sense that Mookie Betts got hurt for all that time, because you got to imagine that those two were going to be competing for the MVP, and to see who would have been better to win it on your own team is like an insane thing. I've never seen that as a fan, as a fan of the Dodgers.
And just speaking of Shohei, like the fact that he's the first designated hitter ever to surpass a WAR of 8, which means he's just hitting, and he was able to compile a WAR over 8. is just insane. And at one point, Aaron Judge had a pretty decent lead on him for home runs hit. I think the gap is now 2. I think it's like 55 to 53 in favor of Judge, but Aaron Judge hasn't stolen 55 stolen bases. At first, we were talking 40-40, then 45-45. Now it's 55-55 for Shohei, doing things that no one in the game has ever seen. He's just been just the unicorn, as many describe him. And yeah, Mookie Betts was awesome today. He'd kind of been in a slump, in my opinion. Feel like there's been a lot of routine pop-ups and at times at bats that he was just getting overpowered in. But that home run tonight this afternoon to walk it off was obviously massive for the Dodgers. His first ever walk-off home run wearing a Dodgers uniform. So now he's up to 19 home runs and 73 RBIs. And despite the injury where it cost him 2 months, you look at his stats overall, he's still having a really good season.
Yeah, he is. And also just the fact that he's just killing it with runners in scoring position. I mean, that stat is one of the most, I think when you look at an offensive player, like that's a stat that I really value more than a lot of other ones, because it means that you're coming up in the most clutch situations and you're delivering and you're getting hits with runners in scoring position and you're producing runs when needed most. And so he's just been such a treat to watch. And also just his selflessness with wanting to move all around the diamond for this team. It goes without saying he is a team player. And then also his personality has gotten a little bit more personable, for lack of a better word. I think him starting that podcast has definitely opened him up a little bit. Him being interviewed. I don't know if you caught his interview a few nights ago, Sunday Night Baseball against the Braves, when they had him mic'd up, but he just seemed so cool, calm, and collected and comfortable on the mic. Even when the Dodgers first traded for him, it was like a little awkward, maybe a little boring too, when they interviewed him. But now he's got that personality, he's got that vibe, and he knows he's on a team destined for the World Series, and you can feel that from him, because he's coming through in the biggest of moments this year.
Yeah, I'm looking up his splits right now. He's hitting .435 in the 9th inning. That's
incredible.
That's just mind blowing. Randomly in the 4th inning, he goes off even more. He's hitting .556 in the 4th inning. So something about the 4th inning he really likes. But yeah, I mean,
second time up.
Scoring position, he's hitting .371 with a OPS over 1,000. Runners at third hitting over 300. First and third hitting 500. So all the high stakes situations, anything that really calls for clutch or big at bats, he's coming through way more at a higher clip than the average baseball player. And so obviously the thing that we're going to beat to death is this the year that Mookie Betts really shows up once again in the postseason?
I really hope so, Kevin. I really do. But I can't predict that, because every year you never know what team is going to show up in October. So I really hope so. I'm hoping with the pressure has been a little bit alleviated from Mookie Betts in a sense, because of the additions of Shohei Ohtani, Teoscar Hernandez, and everyone else on this team. So it's not so much when the Dodgers first got Mookie Betts in 2020, the focus was kind of all on Mookie Betts and less on the supporting cast around him, and he delivered. And now it's kind of been his team throughout this run, even with the additions of like Trey Turner and Freddie Freeman. So the focus has been a lot on him, but maybe with the focus now on Shohei Ohtani, the fact that he's leading off now, it could help. But I don't know. There's no way to predict this shit.
Totally. Got a question from Maria G. So we welcome all your guys' questions. If you have anything for us, is the Ohtani fatigue warranted, or are people just absolutely miserable?
What does that mean?
So it's basically saying, like, are people, not Dodger fans, but other fans, tired of the media and accounts just over talking Ohtani, and people are getting sick of him winning all the MVPs? Or so that's kind of what she's saying.
I mean, look, here's the thing. It's like Major League Baseball is going to get criticized regardless of what they do, whether they overhype their best player or their most marketable player, or they don't do well enough to market him. And then you're coming after them for not being good, promoting the game. So I don't really care. I mean, it's sort of the whining and complaining from people that don't have Shohei Ohtani on their team, or fans of teams that missed out on signing Ohtani. But
yeah,
I was thinking about this the other day. All of the Mets fans that are advocating for Lindor to be the MVP over Shohei Ohtani is just a ridiculous argument to make and should never be even approached. But can you imagine if they had Shohei Ohtani and we had Francisco Lindor? They would be laughing in our faces for us being like, well, what about our guy? He's doing pretty good, which nothing to take away from Francisco Lindor, but he's not doing the things that Shohei Ohtani is doing with the bat. You just mentioned that he's got the record or is tied for the record for most WAR as a designated hitter. And they talk about, what about the field?
highest WAR.
The highest WAR.
They
talk about, he's not playing the field. Well, you know what? He's doing it all with his bat. I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think this is just mostly people being miserable, someone pissed in their Cheerios. This is a combination of people around the country hate the Dodgers, and so they don't want to root for Ohtani because now he's on the Dodgers, because we're basically the evil empire out there. But when Ohtani was on the Angels, he was basically in no man's land, even though it's next to Disneyland. And people just didn't, a lot of people, I think in general, unless you're like Ben Verlander, didn't appreciate the greatness of Shohei Ohtani. The media gave him his flowers. He won the MVPs. But I feel like on a national scale, because the Angels weren't on a lot of Sunday night or Fox afternoon games, we didn't get to really see Ohtani unless you wanted to be miserable and watch Angels games. And personally, for me, I didn't want to waste my time and watch a lot of Angels games because it was a bad product. And the Angels are not a fun team to watch. But now that he's on the Dodgers, he's getting all his recognition, and he is the rightful face of baseball, not like a few years ago when they tried to make it Fernando Tatis Jr. and Tatis shot himself in the foot. And also, this saved us from having to watch stupid highlights of him making just relay shortstop throws. At least now we're seeing legit home runs and big moments. And I think the game itself is growing because of Ohtani. Someone told me the other day that when tourists from Japan come to Los Angeles now, most of them are coming specifically for Ohtani. Even if they're not going to a game, they go to Dodger Stadium or they buy some Ohtani merchandise because this guy is one of the biggest global brands in the world right now.
Yeah, he is. And that's the thing. It's like when he was with the Angels, people were criticizing Major League Baseball, ESPN, whatever, blah, 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 for not promoting the game because they're going to promote a game that doesn't matter, that's not going to be in October, that isn't playing for anything. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's doing crazy things. And obviously they did hype him up when, he's throwing the ball 100 miles an hour and then depositing home runs over the wall, hitting at 115 miles an hour. So obviously you're going to see those highlights, those big moments. But in terms of his, production mattering to his team, it didn't, because the Angels were so bad.
Yeah, and even the Angels fans at the beginning of the season acting like Ohtani leaving was going to be a good thing for him or he wouldn't be missed. Well, you look at the record now versus when they had Ohtani to now where they don't have Ohtani, and they're even worse off than what are they, 62 win team right now or something? They're in last place. They're worse than the Oakland Athletics that aren't even trying.
Right. So I don't know. I mean, I think that the fatigue is stupid because you're right. He is globally the biggest superstar that exists. So I think people just want things to whine about, honestly.
No, yeah, absolutely. Aaron Attic, is Muncy out for a while again, or is it a one-time sit out? From what I've understand and what Dave Roberts said, he should be back in the Dodgers lineup on Tuesday. So hopefully this was just precautionary and not something we're going to have to worry about.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'll believe it when I see it.
Oh, wonderful. Roy Estrada, Does Casparius make the playoff roster and leave Daniel Hudson off?
It's actually a pretty good question because let me look it up. I think Daniel Hudson's been pretty bad lately.
He's really struggling, but I can guarantee you they're not leaving Daniel Hudson off the
No, they're not.
NLDS
But
roster. And I actually wanted to kind of dive into this with you since I think we have the time. There's only 6 games left. And at this point, we should be able to pretty much project who we think is making the Dodgers postseason roster. I don't care about the hitters tonight, but from a pitching standpoint,
yeah,
who do you think are the guys? We can look at the 40-man.
yeah, I'm just gonna pull up the Dodgers roster so I don't forget anybody.
So at the top, Anthony Bonda. They're saying that he's healed from whatever happened to his hand, and he actually could be back now before the end of the regular season. Do you think he's on?
I think yes, because they want to have another lefty besides Vesia, right?
I think so too. So okay, so Bonda's one. Ryan Brazier's a lock.
Yep.
Walker Buehler will be on. I don't think Casparius will be on, at least for the first round. So I'm going to say no. I just don't think he has the experience yet.
I mean, yeah, he pitched 3 great innings today, but it's, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. Anything can happen over the last few games of the season. So,
and I'll get to why in a second, why I even believe firmer than that. But Jack Flaherty will obviously get on. He's starting for the Dodgers. That's 4. Gonna highlight someone on the IL, Tony Gonsolin. What does your gut say?
Could make it as a bulk inning guy, but honestly, if he doesn't pitch before the season ends, I don't know. I don't know if you can just throw a guy like that not only on the regular season roster, the postseason roster, but he's not pitched well in the postseason, so that's a tough sell.
Has had postseason demons, but in his last outing, which I think was last night in Oklahoma City, he looked pretty good. He went 4 innings, I'm pretty sure, and limited the damage. Sounds like they're going to try to call him up for the Coors Field series, which is not ideal for any pitcher trying to make your debut and state your case to make the roster. But I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say for now, Tony Gonsolin gets on. So that's 5. Gratterall's a lock. That's 6. Michael Grove, who's in the minors,
should be nowhere near this roster.
Get him a one-way ticket to Mexico. Yeah, I'm off him as well. Brent Honeywell. What do you think?
I like the job that Brent has done, and he, to me, is Tony Gonsolin if Tony Gonsolin is not going to be there, because Honeywell can go 2 or 3 innings at the most if you need him to. His last time out, he pitched last night. He pitched 2 scoreless innings. So, and a couple outings ago, he pitched 2 scoreless innings in Atlanta. He's been pretty decent. I mean, he has a 2.78 ERA on the year, and he's been pretty damn reliable, I would say. So I think he is not a lock, but he's definitely up there in consideration.
Yeah, he's probably one of the last guys with Gonsolin that they're deciding. For now, I'm going to say no, but it wouldn't shock me if he gets on maybe in the NLCS or World Series, if we get that far, if someone else shits their pants. So we're still at 6, maybe 7 if Honeywell. Daniel Hudson, he's a lock for me. That's for sure 7. Joe Kelly, I think he gets on. We'll find out as we go through the list. But he's looked better in his last couple outings, and they love Joe Kelly.
Oh, I was just going to say, you don't think he's making the postseason roster? Of course he is if he's healthy.
Yeah, so he'll be on. Kershaw,
get ready to have a heart attack.
Pitch him in the 4th inning or something. Just not
pitch him in an inning where we can, weather the storm after that if need be.
Kershaw is throwing bullpens, but he hasn't pitched since that Diamondback series when he left injured. And they just said, I think yesterday, the toe is still bothering him. Until he's 100%, I'm out on Kershaw. I don't buy it.
Here's the thing, though. Here, let me ask you a question. let's say Kershaw is available to pitch, and and is available for the postseason. Are you giving him a start?
No,
Okay,
absolutely
so
not.
then what purpose does he serve?
The only
And
purpose he
I
could.
don't mean to be harsh. I love Kershaw. I respect the hell out of the guy, but I'm talking about right now in this moment. If you're not going to have him start a game, what are you going to have him do? Come out of the bullpen? That doesn't
I
necessarily work.
guess. I mean, yeah, that'd be the only role I'm comfortable with is you have an opener and then you say Kershaw innings 2 through 4, they're yours, buddy, and then you hand it off to the pen or something. But yeah, I don't think you can let him face the top of any team's lineup twice.
That's just a recipe for disaster. I'd rather him be like a pitching coach. Like I hate to say it, but we can't be tinkering around with this stuff right now, at least.
Yeah. I don't think he's healthy enough to make it. So for now, I'm actually just going to X him out. Landon Knack is another guy who could make it, but at the same time, I could see the Dodgers snubbing him. I guess the question with Landon Knack is if he's not starting for the Dodgers, then what role would he really have on the postseason roster? I don't think he'd start outside of being the fourth guy up. And personally, I'm leaning bullpen game over Landon Knack, I think, at this moment in time.
But you wouldn't want Landon Knack pitching in that bullpen game. I would want him pitching in that bullpen game.
Um, depends where we're at with Gonsolin, I guess.
To me, he's on my postseason roster.
Okay, so Landon,
he has earned it. I truly believe that he has been a very consistent starting pitcher for us, and we don't have those.
I think Landon Knack has earned it, to be honest. I don't know if he'll start for the Dodgers, but they should have him on there as an option.
Definitely.
Especially if Walker Buehler just doesn't have it, then
Are you
maybe you go to
kidding?
him.
Yes, of course you have him for a piggyback situation. Yeah, I'm a lock with him.
Okay, I think we're up to 9 or 10 now. Kopech is obviously a lock.
Yep.
Miller's in the minors. He's not making it. Evan Phillips, lock.
Yep.
Stone's on the IL. Trinan's a lock. Vesia is a lock. And Yamamoto's a lock.
So how many is that?
We either nailed 13 or 14 guys.
That's typically what they'll go with, right?
Yeah. So I think it might just come down to Gonsolin versus Honeywell. Sounds like it.
Right. Which, I think if Gonsolin is ready to go, they're going to choose Gonsolin over Honeywell.
Right.
But, for me, it does scare. I mean, it scares me to be like experimenting with things that we can't trust, like it just feels such a delicate thing in the postseason, and the Dodgers have been so bad the last 2 seasons in the playoffs. It's just, for me as a fan, I just want as much certainty as I can muster.
What's up, Gavin? Gavin DeLuhosh. Can anyone beat the Padres? We're about to talk this Padres series actually in a second, but just to kind of close out this game today and the meaning behind it. Yes, it was against the Colorado Rockies, but if the Dodgers had not won today because the Padres swept the White Sox, no fight there from Chicago, really. If the Dodgers had lost today, we'd only have a two-game lead in the NL West. And the Padres are our next opponent for a 3-game series. And so what that means is if the Padres had somehow swept us in the next round, they take the lead in the National League West because they own the tiebreaker. And that would put a lot of pressure on the Dodgers as well going into that series with just a 2-game lead in the standings. Now that the Dodgers were able to win this game, personally, this was probably their best comeback win of the year. Yes, it was against the Rockies, but the stakes were really high today. Now they have a 3-game lead in the NL West going into this series. And so realistically, all they have to do in this upcoming series against the Padres, just take one game. You take one game, you will leave the series still in front in the NL West. And then really all you got to do is win 2 games in Colorado, and it's a wrap.
Yeah. You just got to win one of these games. And I was pulling this up because I wanted to take a look at it. So the pitching matchups for this series against the Padres on Tuesday, it's going to be Landon Knack versus Michael King. Then we've got Wednesday, Jack Flaherty versus Dylan Cease. That should be a really good one. And then Thursday, you've got Buehler versus Musgrove. If let's say, as good as Jack Flaherty is, Dylan Cease has been pitching out of his goddamn mind. So you figure that might be your scheduled loss in those three. And then the Knack, King game is winnable. And Joe Musgrove, the Dodgers have beaten before. So that's another potentially winnable game. It's at home, which is a good thing for us to have home field advantage there. They just got to take care of business because honestly, they can't afford a tie because the Padres have the tiebreaker, right? So that's not acceptable. They need to take care of business, which is why this game today against the Rockies was so big. And the fact that the Dodgers could scoreboard watch in real time so that they could say, we got to fucking win this game. And that's exactly what they did. So that was a very clutch moment by this team, not to mention the individual clutch moments we've talked about.
Yeah, and if you're even thinking about going to these games, I highly recommend it. I was actually watching, I think the Padres podcast is called the Hog Watch podcast, and the podcast host was saying that the playoffs start for them on Tuesday. I don't know if I'd go that far calling these next few games playoff games. Obviously for the Padres, this is it for them. They have to sweep us in order to win the division, most likely. But thank God it is at Dodger Stadium, like Jake said. And if you're looking to go to these games, Tuesday through Thursday or when the Dodgers and Padres meet, this is a hot event. I'm looking on TickPick right now, who sponsors the Incline Dodgers podcast. The get in the door price is $95 on Tuesday for this Dodgers Padres game. So if you're looking to go to this game, download the TickPick app right now. Look for some promo codes out there as well. Maybe you get a deal or discount, and there's no service fees at checkout. A very good customer service team if you have any issues. But yeah, if you're even thinking about going to this game, do it on the TickPick app. So check them out, get your Dodgers tickets, and hopefully we can celebrate another NL West title, because I'm actually happy that the Padres are challenging us for the division. I was sick of just cruise control and these guys getting a bunch of time off. I think the Dodgers actually play better baseball when they have a tighter division race in October. So I'm here for it. But yeah, I agree that Joe Musgrove is beatable. They should be able to beat him. He's not the Joe Musgrove that he's been in the past. Michael King dominated us. I'm pretty sure the last time we faced him, he had like complete control over that slider and had a ton of strikeouts, and that was frustrating. And Dylan Cease, I know we've gotten to him in the past, but I think this season Dylan Cease also pitched well against us as well, at least once. But yeah, this is a big series. It'll actually be kind of exciting to see what Landon Knack does against the Padres. It'll be a statement game for him, and if he pitches well, then yeah, he's a slam dunk. Make him on the postseason roster, and hopefully Jack Flaherty gets a bounce back as well. This is why the Dodgers traded for him. So let's see what Flaherty looks like against the Padres. Any other thoughts on the pitching? Go ahead.
Yeah, I pulled up Michael King's game log because you said that he dominated us. I just wanted to see what the line was. So it was May 10th. He pitched 7 innings, shutout baseball, 3 walks, 11 strikeouts. So he really did own us that night. And yeah, that's a game that you might not win. And you were talking about the attitudes, right? The Padres podcast hosts were talking about how this is their, the playoffs start Tuesday, and how maybe the Padres are, thinking of it as they should. But I also think that the Dodgers should be thinking of it as well, the same way. They've got to hold court. They've got to take care of business. They've got to show them that, yes, they are the better team, because I believe that they are. They need to prove that. They need to show that. The Padres have kind of owned us a little bit this year. So this is a chance to make a statement at home to say, this is a good run that you guys had, but you're not taking this division away from us. And to your point, Kevin, about the Dodgers playing meaningful baseball in September into October, I think is a huge thing, because the last few seasons it's been cruise control, like you mentioned. They've kind of fallen flat in the postseason. So this is the other approach to have them be playing meaningful baseball, having, a game against the Rockies in September mattering
Yeah.
to this team doesn't ever happen. So the fact that they had that, they've been, that's sort of a battle test. It was a test to hold their ground. They need to hold court when the Padres come into town on Tuesday. I'm glad they have the day off to get that bullpen rested because Yamamoto was kind of a disaster today. So I'm looking forward to this series, and I hope they show up.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone tuning in as well. This is a big series coming up, so hit that like button while you're here and drop some comments. Yeah, to that point, the last couple years it's been a blowout in the division race, and then we get bounced in the first round. But you think back to 2021 when the Giants were always on our asses and won the division. Call me wrong, but if the stupid postseason format didn't fuck us, we would have won the World Series that year. But because we had to play the wild card game, because we had to face the Giants in the NLDS, that set it up beautifully for the Atlanta Braves, who basically got what some people say 2020 is. They got a Mickey Mouse pass to the freaking World Series because the Braves should have been playing that wild card game. The Braves should have been playing that NLDS against the Giants. And the Dodgers should have had the bye. They should have had, I believe, the Brewers, who were on the other side of the bracket. And then they play the winner of the Braves and the Giants, and they'd have a much fresher and potentially a not dead arm Max Scherzer because you wouldn't have to have pitched him in the wild card game, bring him out of the bullpen against the Giants. And honestly, I think back to that year all the time. We just really got fucked. It was bullshit.
Sure. But the other side of the coin is this. They had that tight division race with the Giants, and they made it to game 6 of NLCS.
That's my point. And that's exactly my point. Is they were playing phenomenal ball. That's why they were able to beat the Giants. They had momentum. It's just a matter of literally running out of gas because they played a couple unnecessary games, and then Roberts overworked Arias, and Scherzer got the dead arm. And I just feel like what I was just saying a second ago really could have gone in our favor if the postseason bracket was not stupid.
Right. And those are things you can't really control. But I think the takeaway is that this formula does work for this team of playing those meaningful games down the stretch.
Yeah.
And, kind of 9 times out of 10, if you are hot in the postseason, you're going to go all the way and have a chance to win the World Series. And so I'm hoping that that's the case. The Dodgers will be battle tested for these 3 games to kind of hold on to the division. If they take care of business at home, then maybe they have a little bit of a reprieve with the Rockies to kind of, fine tune their instrument, so to speak. And then it's on to the playoffs. I think this is really huge for them. And I'm excited to see kind of how it unfolds.
Yeah, and the Padres just activated their secret weapon today on the active roster. Former Dodger Nick Ahmed is now on the Padres, and so I'm sure he's there to feed them all the secrets that he learned in a short stint with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Maybe we'll see Nick Ahmed pinch hit in a late inning situation against us. But that's a guy you can't let him beat us. But just to kind of highlight the Padres real quick, Manny Machado, year in and year out, seems like he always has at least 1 home run in a series against us. And he's at 29 home runs right now with 104 RBIs. Got to be careful with your pitch selection to Manny Machado. Don't give him a hanging slider or a fastball down the middle. And everyone knows about Jackson Merrill at this point, battling Paul Skeens for National League Rookie of the Year. He was not the same Jackson Merrill that we saw in Korea that looked inexperienced in a rookie. He's now up to 24 home runs with a 292 batting average. And I feel like every time I scoreboard watch the Padres, Jackson Merrill is the guy that comes up with a home run or a go-ahead 2-run double. He's been very clutch for them. And so you can't sleep on Jackson Merrill. Fernando Tatis Jr. is back as well. Even though he's only played 97 games, he's got 20 home runs and has been a pest towards the Dodgers in the past. And then the guy that Will Smith should have never called irrelevant, all-star Jurickson Profar, is having a very much outlier season, hitting 285 with 24 home runs. those are the big four I am most concerned about
And
in
then,
this
I mean, you
series.
got Luis Ariz too,
Oh yeah.
hitting over 300. Like
Yes.
they've got a ton of really good weapons that always. And Xander Bogaerts, is he hurt or is he?
No, he's there.
He's there. Yeah. So no, their offense is really, it's a lot like ours. It's very deep, very long.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's tough to defeat.
Yeah, even though Arias only has 4 home runs, he's hitting 323. And I'm pretty sure in one of the games at Petco, he had a walk-off hit against us that may have gone to extra innings. I feel like it was either a go-ahead or a walk-off, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like he had a big hit against us in one of those games. And former names, one Donovan Solano, who used to be on the Giants. He's a platoon guy, and he's
He
somehow
killed
having a
us.
good season. Yep, he's having a pretty solid season. And then former Dodger from last year, David Peralta, hitting 268 with 8 home runs, and potentially someone we might see in one of the games in their starting lineup. They have a deep lineup. I mean, I'm going to tip my cap to them. They have the depth for once. Preller has done a really good rebound job from last season. They're a tough team, and also worth noting, I think it was the statistic was this is the first 90 win Padres team since 2010.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So they've been good. And this is despite trading Juan Soto in the offseason. They've seemed to have replaced him. They've got a formidable rotation. It's going to be a tough series. And of course, they added Tanner Scott and Jason Adam at the deadline. And then they've got a Robert Suarez in the back end of their bullpen. So scoring some runs and getting a lead is going to be important. This Padres team, it's going to be a tough series. That's why you got to take at least one.
Yeah, you do. And it's at home. You should win 2 out of 3 of this and just secure the division. I mean, basically that is what the Dodgers need to do. And then, once they secure the division, they've got to, make sure that they're ready for October. And I'm just like, we know that the Padres are going to get up for this series. They typically do. I just hope that the Dodgers know. I mean, they can't not know what's at stake here, but I hope it matters to them enough to where they come out guns blazing.
Yeah. All right. So we'll get to your guys' questions. I see there's a few in the chat. If you have any last second questions or a super chat, drop that below. We'll do that to kind of finalize the show. But last thoughts for you, Jake, on this Padres series. If you had to pick a Dodger, who's going to step up for Los Angeles?
If I had to pick a Dodger that's going to step up for Los Angeles, I'm going to go with Freddie Freeman in this series. He's obviously been one of the big leaders of this team. Had a tough day today until he didn't, and he knocked in a run. But I just have a sinking feeling that he's going to do a lot of damage against the Padres.
I love it. I hope so. I was going to try to go with Will Smith real quick, but he has a 590 OPS against the Padres this season. So I will not be going with Will Smith anymore. Yeah, Freeman's a good call. I'm gonna say Max Muncy. If he's healthy, he's gonna have a home run. I don't know what game, maybe off Joe Musgrove. I'll say Max Muncy steps up for the Dodgers and looks good against the Padres. So, Gerald B. Carrillo, how far do you think the starting pitching of the Dodgers will take them in the postseason?
They will not go as far. Well, I guess you could make the argument that they're going to go as far as their starting pitching takes them, but I truly believe that it's the offense. They'll go as far as the offense takes them. So I am not very confident in this starting rotation. There is only one starter that has been consistently good all year, and pretty much the entire time he's been with us, Jack Flaherty, aside from one bad start in there. I think that he's the one that I have the most confidence in. But in terms of Yamamoto and Buehler being behind him, that's just, you don't know what you're going to get there, especially with Walker Buehler. And again, I mean, Yamamoto, you forget, he's a rookie. He's never been in this position before, in Major League Baseball. So it's a lot of uncertainty. And then what do? You go with Knack or a bullpen game after that? you're going to have a bullpen game ready to go when Yamamoto and Buehler take the mound. So I don't know that you can really afford to go for a third bullpen game out of four. And that's why I think you got to start Landon next. So that's kind of where I'm at with the rotation.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Yamamoto because of lack of MLB experience. I'm more worried about Yamamoto because he missed 3 months with a rotator cuff strain, and we really haven't seen him stretched out yet and pitch really meaningful baseball. He's only made 3 starts since being activated, so he's still a question mark in my book with how effective he can really be. But I mean, yeah, obviously the starting rotation is going to play a big factor in how far this Dodgers team gets. And I'm not asking for them to go out 6, but if they can go 4 and maybe limit the damage to 2 to 3 runs, I'm good with that. Just don't get shelled in the first inning and set this game up to be like a 5-0 deficit.
Absolutely. I think that if they can give you 5 innings and 3 runs, or 5 innings and 2 runs, or 6 innings and 4 runs, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like the expectation and the bar is going to be low for this starting pitching. So that's why the offense is the key.
Empire Jeff TV calling a shot that the Dodgers will win 2 of 3 against the Padres. Hope you're right, Empire Jeff.
Yeah, me too.
Just scrolling through. What's up, Justin Yamas? We've got Locked On Dodgers. I'm with Jake. Freddie is going to have a big day and show up and ready to go. How about that?
All right. Love that.
I'm with you, Locked On Dodgers. I want to see Freddie Freeman have a big series against the Padres. I'm fully riding that. Good call. I hope Freddie Freeman just goes off, hits a bunch of home runs, and is not what he was heading into the postseason last year, where Freddie Freeman said he lost his swing. This is kind of the most crucial part of the season, where guys like Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, they need to have their swing and have their rhythms in check, because I'm tired of those excuses where 2 years in a row now, not with Freddie, but with Mookie, saying he lost his mechanics in his swing, and then all of a sudden he was just out of sorts, and then it carried into the postseason. And then Freddie Freeman last year said he lost his swing for a few weeks, and then that carried into the postseason. So do what you got to do to be in rhythm. Please, Dodgers. All right. Well, looks like we don't have any more other questions unless someone drops one in the next minute or so. Jake, is there anything you want to cover, or any Dodgers segments that we should get to?
I think that no, I'm going to save this take for another day when we do a postseason preview, because I'm not ready to say it just yet. But
it's a postseason preview.
yeah, it's a thought that I have if things go
Can
south.
you tease it?
Well, I'm saying it's a thought that I have if things go south.
Well, who's
for the
involved
Dodgers in the playoffs? I'm not going to say, because it'll give it away.
Okay.
It's a thought that I just popped into my mind, and I've been thinking about it, but I got to flesh it out a little bit more. I just, I think the big takeaway is that this team is finally experiencing another franchise breathing down their necks, and the Dodgers haven't experienced that since 2021, when the Giants were somehow in the race. It kind of really does lend itself to say that the Giants were kind of flukes in that 2021 season, because since then they've not made the playoffs. So, and they just got eliminated. So I think that was kind of an interesting fluke, but this is the first time since then that the Dodgers are playing meaningful baseball. So I'm excited. I really enjoy watching when these games start to matter, and the sooner that they start to matter, the better, I think, for this team. They need to be battle tested, and it's I don't know. I guess my last question to you, Kevin, is where you sit right now. Are you feeling confident for October?
I mean, I'm always feeling confident, and I'm happy with who we get in the NLDS, and then something goes horribly wrong. Offensively, this is the best I've felt about the Dodgers since 2020. with Otani, the way he's been performing, we've talked about Teoscar earlier today and throughout the season, how he's been a great all-star and role player for the Dodgers. And then you've got, of course, Mookie and Freddie and Muncy. Offensively, I feel like we have the firepower to get the job done. There are some question marks without a doubt with the starting pitching. And so I hope they make the right call with who they select and they put in the right chronological order for who they go to in the postseason. So hopefully that doesn't flip on its head and go wrong and spoil it for us. But I feel good overall. I feel confident. I was going to talk about something else in a second, but Locked On Dodgers, Klein and I just agreed. Look at that. Me and Jeff. Harmony here. Good stuff. Yeah, this is also worth mentioning from Justin Yamas. Predict the NL playoff picture. So how do you think the seedings are going to finalize in the National League?
You go first because I'm gonna look at the standings real quick because I don't know them off the top
All
of my
right.
head.
So I think the 4 and the 5 are going to be the Padres and the Diamondbacks. Therefore, the Dodgers will win the division. I'm just trying to pull up the Phillies schedule real quick. So I know they play the Braves next, or no, they don't. The Mets play the Braves next. So the Phillies have the Cubs, and then they have the Nationals. I'm gonna say the Phillies end up with the 1 seed. I'm gonna say the Dodgers end up with the 2 seed. I'm gonna say the Mets and Brewers. The Brewers are your 3, and your Mets are the 6. And the Atlanta Braves are watching from their couches this October.
Yeah, because the Padres and the Diamondbacks have really held their own since the All-Star break, and the Mets have really come alive as of late. They beat the Phillies today in a real nail biter in New York, and so yeah, it looks like the Braves are kind of on the outside looking in, unless the Padres, Diamondbacks, and Mets, or it's really the Mets. If the Mets, pull a
the Mets and Braves play next for 3.
That's a huge series too.
Yeah. So the Braves, the Braves would have to first of all sweep the Mets, and that probably wraps it up. They'll get in. I don't expect to sweep. I don't know who's going to win that series though. I didn't look at the pitching matchups, but that is going to be the series I think of the entire baseball world coming up. Braves and Mets.
I think the Mets hold on here. I don't think that the Braves will overtake them. I think that the Mets have a pretty good team and they figured it out. But they could pull a Mets and met themselves. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm with you on the rest of the seeding on the NL playoff picture.
Yeah. So my last take, which we actually didn't get to, God, so obviously it was yesterday. I'm trying to figure out what inning it was. I think it was the 5th. But so Dave Roberts kind of irked me when he made this decision to not pinch hit Gavin Lux against the Colorado Rockies lefty at that time, who was, I believe it was Luis Peralta. Yeah, it was Luis Peralta. So Dodgers had the bases loaded. I think there were 2 outs. Gavin Lux, who's just been atrocious against lefties all season, struck out against Peralta, and that ended the inning.
Also in a massive slump overall.
Right. And my point is, this was the decisive moment in the game where if you sub out Lux and you go with the platoon advantage, never a guarantee in baseball, but I would probably lean Pages or Kike to come up in that spot and give them the opportunity. Because when Lux struck out, that was pretty much the game right there, and the Dodgers were never able to find themselves back in the game. But if you put the right batter in that situation and the Dodgers take the lead, they probably hold on, and we don't even talk about this game in terms of how important it was. I just didn't like the move by Roberts. I didn't understand having Lux bat against the lefty reliever, just set up for failure. So I don't want to see that from Roberts at all in the postseason. I don't want to see Austin Barnes pinch hit against Josh Hader. I don't want to see these wrong pinch hit moves at all. I don't want to see Colton Wong-like moves. I don't think we have to worry about Colton Wong this year, but this shit haunts my memories.
What was Roberts' explanation for that?
And that's the other thing. I don't think anyone even asked him about that. And I get it. I think the media is scared to ask these hard hitting questions sometimes because they don't want to lose their credentials or get backlash. But if you're a journalist and if someone did ask it, then send it to me and I take my L. You got to ask those questions of why you don't make the move there.
I mean, the thing is sometimes, look, I would appreciate it if it was the case where, Roberts makes that move and he says, well, actually, I wanted Lux in that spot because he faces this type of pitch well. If you take a look, he has a 250 batting average against this pitch, and this guy throws this pitch more often, whatever the case is. I would rather hear like that explanation of like, I went with this decision because of it was as well informed as I could be in that moment. But I feel like most of the time it's like, Roberts has a tendency to want to give guys their moment. And so to me, it's like in that moment, it's just such a no-brainer. It's like you go with the platoon advantage every time in that spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it's arguably the deciding moment. So just short-sighted there
But
by
I
Roberts.
think in the playoffs, Kevin, he's going to do that.
Yeah.
I think he will.
I think you're right too. That was maybe Lux's final test for the Dodgers to see, okay, can this guy hit lefties? Nope, guess not. Okay, we got to go with the right-handed bat next time. This will be the last question for going out to J-Rex Vids since he looks like a new face, and I want to give him his question opportunity, and then we're piecing out. But do you think if the Dodgers don't win the World Series this year, it's time for Dave Roberts to go and the big contract except Otani? I mean, we're not going to get into this. I thought it'd be something else. Sorry, JX video, but to answer your question, it's not World Series or bust for Dave Roberts, in my opinion. I think if he gets them to the World Series and they lose, he's fine. If he gets them to the NLCS, they lose. I also think he might be fine, unless it's just like the worst managing job ever. Wild card bounce, if that happens, or NLDS bounce, that's a different discussion. And so we'll dive deeper into that if the situation calls for it. But I think that's the best way to approach that question. So thank you, JREX Vids, for your question. Want to thank all you guys for your questions tonight and for everyone blowing up the chat. We really appreciate all you guys tuning in. If you aren't a subscriber and you like our content, that will go a long way to hit that subscribe button. And if you haven't hit that like button yet, those likes actually go a long way as well. Me and Jake are just two dudes that love the Dodgers, and we're here to entertain you guys. And so by boosting our following, we get better content out there. And so we appreciate all you guys tuning in, especially everyone that's here every episode. Some of you guys are just loyal as fuck, and we really appreciate you guys. But yeah, this is Kevin Klein and Jake Reiner signing out. Hit that subscribe button on the audio feed as well. Last word for you, Jake.
Last word is go Dodgers, take 2 out of 3 from the Padres, and let's just secure this division.
All right. Everyone have a great week ahead. We'll probably be back after some of these Padres games go down.